but
all right, here we are. Welcome everybody. Good afternoon. I hope everyone has grabbed their lunch and is getting comfortable to join us for another episode of Sustainable Brain. I am Christy Villanueva, president of the West San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, and joining me as always every week, Dr. Sunita from The Brain Coach. Hello, Sunita.
hello, Christy. It's great to be on with you again. And I'm really excited. Please, before I jump in, finish your introductions, because I'm excited about introducing Dr. Barbera. Go ahead.
So everyone, get comfortable. We've got some great conversation that's going to be happening today. And as you know, if you've looked at the preview, we're going to get into entrepreneurship and talk about Dr. Barbera's Clicksuasion Labs, which is a new company, very interesting, and maybe just touch on a little bit of the data and evidence-based strategies that he's working on. So go ahead, Dr. Sunita.
This is, everybody knows I just take charge, take over. I can't help it, but thank you for doing that correctly, Christy. But Dr. Barbera was someone I met in residency in Chicago and saw like innovation in him, and even what he's doing. Clicksuasion, I think I'm saying that right, was something that he was talking about back then, and his research back then and what he was publishing was along the lines of consumers and their choices. But then I reached out to him recently, and during a time when I see a lot of people, entrepreneurs shrinking, Michael, Dr. Barbera actually came up with some innovation, and I really wanted to feature some of that. Dr. Barbera, would you please introduce yourself?
Hey, good afternoon. Absolutely. So I am a psychologist, but I am not the kind of psychologist that can tell you I had bad parents. I mostly work in marketing, and so we research how people make decisions and then apply marketing to apply psychology to marketing, communication, and employee engagement. And so, although I'm a psychologist by formal education and training, I'm an entrepreneur by torture. Been an entrepreneur since I was 13 years old, had a few successes, but many more failures, of which I learned from. And so for the last 7 years, I combined the two passions of behavioral science and entrepreneurship with Clicksuasion Labs.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
Isn't that's so fascinating? I don't know, Christy. I think Christy does too. We think about, why do people make decisions? What is it that influences them? So that's an amazing concept. I love the Clicksuasion Labs. But recently, you opened a new business right in the middle of the crisis. I mean, we were masking up. People were, New York City, April 30th, when you launched your business, they had freezers full of bodies, and it was morbid. It was such a lot of desperation in the air. But you decided to open a business, and I want to understand, what is the thought? Can you tell us a little bit about what were you thinking?
Well, the community that I work and reside in is Pinehurst, North Carolina. If you play golf, you probably heard of it. It's famous for golf, famous for horses and some tennis. So majority of the economy here is built upon tourism and hospitality. When the pandemic hit here in early March or so, jobs started to go away and things were shut down. So, but the most people who live here actually in Moore County, North Carolina, are retired or are not financially affected, but the people who work here live in the neighboring counties. So there's still a need for landscaping and lawn care. People were still hiring landscapers and lawn care, and people needed jobs. So why not combine the two? Now, the seed for creating a subscription-based lawn care company was planted years ago. There's this culture of contractors where I reside that you can call them and you'll get a call back 3 weeks later. Someone promises to show up to your home Monday at 3, they show up Friday at 4. And so it's a challenge, and the willingness to trust contractors in our community is it's low. It's not the most greatest thing to brag about. And so maybe we create something that builds some more trust. So when the pandemic hit, maybe this is the time to create this business where it's lawn care subscribed and people can trust us to come out. And so from 30 days from conception to launch, we launch on April 30th. We planned for about 31 days to get it up. We've hired 7 people and we now service, I think it's 28 or 29 subdivisions within 2 counties.
That's
Wow.
fantastic. Yeah, that's really putting people back to work, helping us be in action more often. I love that.
I think one of the things I heard him say, Michael, and correct me if I'm wrong, you saw the need. There was a need for the service, and then you saw the need that people had for jobs. And is that correct?
That is. So we really wanted to employ people who are financially affected by the pandemic. I'm not in a position where I was really hurting. So knock on wood, a really good position to be in. So I thought, why not help other people where possible?
That's phenomenal. And I mean, I think this is a mindset, Christy. This is a couple of things. As an entrepreneur, I think all entrepreneurs are always looking at, okay, the obvious thing is what can pay me, right? But deeper than that, how can it be a win-win situation? I think that takes a little bit more thought beyond the dollars and cents. And I think that's what happened here is Michael, Dr. Barbera saw a need in his community. And I would like for you also to please tell us, Dr. Barbera, about your volunteer work and how are you engaged in the community? Because I think that makes a difference on mindset. What do you do in your community to make a difference?
That's a good question. So the most difference, if you want to quantify it, will probably be with hiring people who need jobs. And that goes with 2 organizations, with RakeMates, the lawn care company, and Clicksuasion Labs. Now, let's walk backwards in the calendar to pre-COVID, pre-RakeMates days, and let's say we'll start February 2020 and go backwards. Most of the lab's clients don't reside or work in North Carolina. They're out of state, out of country. And so we're always on planes, we're always traveling somewhere, but we hire within our communities. So a lot of the employees here at the lab work and live in the greater Moore County area. So it's important to give back to our community. We volunteer with a few organizations. I also sit on the board for our local Chamber of Commerce. So just like I'm doing this video for the West San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, I get to be harassed by my local Chamber of Commerce as well. And then with RakeMates, we're now employing only people who work in the community and also servicing people in the community. So we're closing that loop, not only just hiring, but servicing the community as well.
Okay, so what I'd like to know is how do you bring, and I think, does this go back to what you've learned? Obviously you're training and you're bringing all these different things together. So how do you lead both teams on the RateMates and the Clicksuasion? What's that? I mean, obviously there's no magic bullet, but what do you do to help lead both teams on each side?
That's a good question. I can answer that so many different ways. So I'll try to answer at least a couple. The first is sustainability. You can't be in every place at every time. When it comes to life-work balance, I mentioned before this call, I have a life-work balance policy of 7 to 7. I don't look at emails, don't answer emails between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. Now that leaves a 12-hour window to get everything done. And most entrepreneurs have said the magic words, well, how hard could it be, right? So I'm going to launch this whole lawn care company in like 30 days. How hard could it be, right? So it's the magic entrepreneurial phrase. And we follow that guidance for ourselves. And then we dive in and we realize, well, today I have to do 2 tasks and that's it. But then you dive into task number 1 and it turns out task number 1 has 17 subtasks. Well, this is really going to take me 4.5 weeks. So it's really about being manageable and then delegating where possible, bring people in. I may have this vision and drive, but RateMates is not only me. There's 7 employees and 2 co-founders. Clicksuasion Labs is not only me. There's several people here at the lab and we're hiring more now. So if it was only me, I couldn't do it. The trick is to, I've had to narrow it down to one thing, is to there's the old adage of, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. I would say combine that with people who you trust.
Absolutely. No, I really love that. And I'm sure that your staff appreciates that. because now they get to have the responsibility, they get to have the buy-in, and they feel a part of an even bigger type of action that can be seen and heard everywhere. So I love that. Dr. Sunitha?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I know when we were there in residency was a hot topic is the word Christy just said, which you talked about is buy-in. Employees having buy-in, or how important, Michael, has that been for you?
It's important. So I'm going to be completely transparent. Whenever I have to do any kind of hiring, whether it be for Clicksuasion Labs, RateMates, or some other company that I might create in the future, I lose all faith in humanity. It's a process that I despise. I don't enjoy. It's absolutely miserable for me. And then so finding the right talent that's going to not only help grow the organization, be a team member, but also not leave you in 30 days or 60 days. I want to keep people for as long as possible. So at the lab, if you can tough it out for 36 months, at 36 months, you get unlimited PTO. So if you can make it that long, you've got a great incentive going for you going forward. And then so, you know, we go to employers or jobs because the job looks great, but we leave because of the employer. Now, I'm not perfect. I definitely have my flaws. I've had my moments. I'll probably have them later today. But I can only try to be the best person possible and give what I can to our team members. And that can be as being a friend, an ear, or even as benefits. So try to give as many benefits as possible. They may not be the sexiest benefits, but we'll look for those non-traditional benefits that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Oh. Do you have any examples of those? I just want to know real quick, any examples of those non-traditional benefits?
That's a good question. So I can't say you won't get them anywhere else because I didn't create these. I didn't make them up. But, you know, the unlimited PTO up to 36 months. You get an education stipend starting day one. The RateMates employees, because we started during COVID, you have paid medical leave. So things that we're trying to do is, you know, just do the, I can't say it's the right thing. We're trying to do the best possible things we can for our team members.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sunita. Sorry.
No. So I hear the non-traditional benefits. I hear loyalty, but you said something when you hire, and there's a saying, be slow to hire and quick to fire. I don't really like that saying, but what I hear is that you really want your team members to you give them a chance to play, wear the jersey, right? And then you let them, and then you kind of let them play and see where it goes. Is that part of the philosophy, is give someone a chance and then give them a prize at the end?
Absolutely. So this rule or policy is more ingrained here at the lab than it is at RateMates, where it's I would rather you make a decision and screw up than not make a decision at all. We can recover from a bad decision, but I can't recover from no decision whatsoever. So I'd rather people make decisions. If there's not a supervisor around, go for it, take a dive, and you know what? We'll see what happens. That's the best thing, because you want to hire people who you trust. And so say you're hiring for your organization. You've had 500 applicants, but you've narrowed it down to 2 people, person A and person B. Person A knows everything about your organization. They could start tomorrow, need 0 training. They're an absolute rock star. But person A is a jerk. Now, person B knows a little bit about your organization. There's a little bit about the responsibilities, needs some training, some hand-holding, but they're a really nice person. So 2 questions. Question number 1, which person, A or B, would you prefer to sit next to on a plane for 5 hours from New York to Los Angeles? And question number 2, who would you prefer to hire? Now, there's no right or wrong answer, but most people would choose person B because we don't want to work with that jerk. We want to work with people who we know, like, and trust.
I love that. So there's the who do you want to sit next to in a plane? I think that's a good one. Because so my question was going to be, you know, how do you know? And I know you're a psychologist, and I know your training is to know consumers, kind of know before they know themselves. But how do you know when you're sitting in front of a good applicant or not? And you just said it. Is there anything else you'd like to add? So we got the airplane analogy.
So there's really no right or wrong answer to know that you found the right person. A good vetting process, to go back to that old adage you mentioned before, hire slow and fire fast. I don't want to fire anybody. If I have to fire somebody, that means I have to hire again, which I despise. So I want to keep you as long as possible. So really hiring slow, go through a good vetting process. Talk to the person. Don't ask the yes or no questions. Like, do you think you'll be a good fit here? No, ask me like, if you were in the office all day by yourself, what would you get done? Let them respond and see what they come up with. Give them the creative answers and see how entrepreneurial they might be.
So yeah, because you might discover something great about this new person.
You never know unless you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now we've talked about strengths-based leadership, where with your staff, you're looking at their strengths and then kind of asking them, what do you do as far as with your staff? Do you delegate? I know you delegate, you said you delegate, but how do you delegate? Is there any secret to delegation?
I don't know if it's any secret. I didn't invent delegation, but if you give the team member the best possible guidance based upon what has to get done, what is the next objective beyond that, who is it responsible for, what are the resources that are needed, and then always ask the question, what do you need from me that I haven't provided for you, and let them answer.
Excellent.
So, Michael, do you think that maybe that might be the failure of, or that causes some of the setbacks with business owners and entrepreneurs, is they're not clear in their communication, they're not clarifying things, and they're not kind of checking with the person on the other side, that employee, to see if maybe they've absorbed the information in the way you want them to receive it?
Well, it's difficult to say narrow it down to that one item, but I would say that it is a significant contributing factor. Is that, let's say you have a small or medium-sized business, you've got 20 employees, 10 work each day, you have a 10-person team that works a shift from 7 to 5. As the small business owner, the leader, the manager, you're responsible for 800 things, and then you want person A to be responsible for person A's things. So if the small business owner or manager has to pull away from their items and go help person A, they might get frustrated or have some anxiety that they're not getting their stuff done. So it is a contributing factor, having that two-way communication and feeling, really building a safe environment where someone can say, small business owner or manager, I don't know how to do this, guide me, teach me, and then have that trust to have that open communication.
That's great.
That's
I like
awesome.
that.
I want to, and I know, we've got a little time left. I really want to understand, Dr. Barbera, how do you, when everything else is falling apart, I want to know the thought or the chain of thoughts. How do you think it's time to open a new business? I get you saw a need, but can you tell us more about how do we start to think growth, or maybe it just comes natural to you, you don't even know that it's running you? Is there a formula to think growth versus shrink?
I don't think it's really a formula. So I have an MBA in entrepreneurship, and they don't teach you how to start a business. They just teach you how to manage a new business, right? So no one tells you the keys to success for starting a business, right? You have to do it and then fail. And, there's someone once said that failure or experience comes from failing. And so I would probably get a lot of experience from things that I've done wrong in my life. I think every person who has the entrepreneurial spirit or bug, you've been somewhere, you've been to a restaurant, someone's handed you the check and be like, this can be done way better. Or you get off the phone with somebody who's like, this can be done better. And so it takes like a Venn diagram, one circle has, this can be done better. And then the other circle is, well, what resources do I have to make it better? And then where it meets in the middle is maybe what you can do.
Excellent.
There's so many things that I think could be done better, or maybe enhance or provide a better customer experience, but maybe I don't have the resources. One of my failures is a company called Jadential. Put a lot of money into this organization. The goal was to create kind of like the Yelp for journalists. So where you're rating journalists and the journalist organizations. Well, journalists don't like that very much. So if you start rating people, even though it's not me rating, it's other people rating it, they don't like being judged. So we had a lot of, a lot of pushback, And so at the end of the day, I really didn't have the resources to make that happen. But Elon Musk is actually creating a company just like that right now. He does have the resources to make that happen. So I will be his biggest cheerleader from North Carolina.
That's
Wow.
awesome. I was looking for what Michael was just talking about was have you guys seen the Ikigai? It's an Ikigai. It's a Japanese Michael's talking about where your business purpose, personal purpose kind of meet. It's called a sweet spot in a book called The Purpose Process by Dr. Pontefant. But anyway, Michael, okay, there he is. That is a huge thing that you just said. Can you elaborate on that more? You talked about where they kind of meet. What is it that meets?
The two decision processes, probably. So, everyone's thought process is a little different. The way I'm always thinking 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 steps ahead, 3, 4, 6 months in advance. I'm not thinking about what has to happen tomorrow. I'm thinking what has to happen 7 months from now, and then what has to happen. So I have I'll just be transparent. I have a rolling or live 20-year goal. So right now my 20-year goal goes through 2040, and then next year it'll go through 2041, and so on and so forth. It'll continue to go. But I have these KPIs that I have to personally hit to meet these goals. So 13 years from now, I want to be running for the U.S. House of Representatives. And so what goals do I have to meet between now and year 13 in order to get to that point? I can't just start in year 13 like, oh, I'm going to run for Congress. It doesn't work like that. How hard could it be?
Well, that's another conversation. But so that's great. So you're keeping yourself accountable for all these goals and just tracking. So you and sat down and wrote a larger plan, a more extensive plan.
Yes. So my business plans are what a business plan should look like: text, graphs, charts, financials. My personal plan is more like bullet points with quantitative KPIs that support them.
Okay.
Like a spreadsheet.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. We just got to stick to it once we get that done. Do you find that to be a challenge sometimes?
It is, okay. So, yeah, it is a challenge because you want to do everything tomorrow. And this is a great transition, because this is where a lot of entrepreneurs or business leaders go awry, is where like, oh, I have to accomplish A. Well, I'm going to get this done by tomorrow. Well, it's not going to happen. So let's talk a more salient example. It's January 1st, and your New Year's resolution is, I'm going to lose 42 pounds in January. No, you're not. Okay. So what do we do to lose 42 pounds in January? We join 2 gyms. We throw out all our junk food. We change our dieting habits. We change our clothes. We get rid of 2 friends. We do all that on January 1. That's not sustainable. That's going to fail by January 4th. A more sustainable approach might be, we say, join a gym. We go 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. After week 3, we now change our diet on Tuesdays and Thursdays. After week 5, we're doing this every day. Now we go to the gym 6 days a week. So you change a little bit, and it's more sustainable over time. So instead of trying to accomplish your entire goal in one day, put it on a calendar and figure out what's going to take 3 months, what's going to take 6, and what you need to support it.
That's wonderful, and it makes perfect sense. Don't you think so, Dr. Sunitha?
It does. In fact, I wish I could give that advice to a lot of parents that are dealing with kids that are at home and they're trying to be the teacher. This is a real issue with an 8-year-old kid too. I've got a 14-year-old who she wants to finish the 7th and 8th grade between now and December, and but hasn't put it down. I love what Dr. Barbera just said, which, so let's, 2 weeks tackling one and then adding. So you've had a success, so you feel successful, right? And then you can add something else to that, and then just keep going, and the chain goes. And before you know, 6 months from now, we've changed our routine, because that's real. I mean, results are produced by routines and habits.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
2 things I want to share there. The celebration is the fun part. So if you want to stay accountable to your goals, actually 3 things. So number 1, tell your friends and family what your goals are. If you make a public announcement about your goals, you are more likely to complete them. So when you make the public announcement that I'm going to complete X by Y date, Now your friend, we don't want to look like the person who failed. So we're going to strive to complete our goals. And the second part of that is plan a celebration on your calendar. And so the celebration is the best part. You accomplish your goal. How do you celebrate? It feels good to celebrate. And the last part of that is another behavioral scientist who's a faculty member over at the University of North Carolina, Oval Caesar, what she did in the beginning of the pandemic to encourage herself to wash her hands more. We sing happy birthday twice. She decorated her bathroom mirror with birthday decorations to remind her to sing happy birthday twice.
That sounds beautiful. So I don't want us to run out of time before, because as I mentioned earlier, I read so much on your website for Clicksuasion that I want you to tell us a little bit about what you mentioned earlier, the psychology and marketing piece and how that works together, and how you serve your clients with that.
So, consumer psychology, right? We don't just put out a product and people buy it. It's just not the field of dream scenario. If you build it, they don't come. So we have to target, consumers' emotions. How do we build trust or perceived trust? And so a lot of our research or recommendations to organizations to create, brand experiences to make it fun, is to build an emotional connection with that brand. And I will give you an example, because a lot of people say, like, well, it's all about price, but it's not. So let's say you're buying a new TV for yourself. You've done your research, your Google reviews, you finally found the beautiful 4K 60-inch television set that you want to buy. You go to Best Buy, you walk in the front door, the salesperson says, "Hey, Christy, how can I help you?" "I want that TV right there." You made an excellent choice. Ooh, I'm a smart customer. I made an excellent choice today. All right. So the salesperson says, "Chris, you made an excellent choice, but I have to be honest with you. You can get that same 4K 60-inch television set that's $1,000 here for $20 less, for $980 at the Best Buy that's 5 miles away. How likely are you to drive 5 miles to save $20 on a $1,000 item?"
Oh my God, that's a tough one. Okay, but I've weighed this out before, and I know that it's going to take me more effort and more gas. So most likely I'm just going to stay.
Right. So it's just $20. Throw it in the cart, right? So now 2 weeks go by. You really want to buy this amazing DVD player to augment your new TV. You do your Google reviews, talk to your friends. You find the perfect DVD player for your television set. You go back to Best Buy. The salesman says, "Christy, welcome back. What can I do for you?" "I want that DVD player." Excellent choice. Ooh, I'm still a smart customer. All right. So, Christy, have to be honest with you. If you go to the Best Buy that is 5 miles away, you can get that same $40 DVD player for $20 for half off. Now, how likely are you going to drive 5 miles to save $20 on a $40 item?
I'm probably going to go drive, but I'm going to be wondering, why is this guy sending me off?
So $20 is $20 no matter how you cut it. Still the same value. We had to work the same length of time to earn it, but we treat it differently compared to other variables that are around us.
Okay. Man, see, that's tough, because I'm thinking about all the buying habits that I've had during the pandemic and all the things that I've chosen that I must have immediately. And I think a lot of folks are going through that now. But the ads, now we're getting into the presidential campaign, and we're starting to see just a little bit of those ads come out and how they're making us feel. So now in my family, I'm actually asking my family members, okay, so we just saw this commercial. What do you think? Whether it's a car ad or if it's a soda or whatever it is, I'm just asking them randomly, what did you think? What did you feel? What thoughts went through your head?
So there's plenty of consumer or voter decision-making research in speech writing. So tonight is Joe Biden's speech. So I'm going to predict what his speech is going to sound like, and you can call me out if I'm wrong tomorrow. So tonight is Joe Biden's, and I think the president's is next week or in the next 2 weeks or so. And so both candidates are going to say something very, very much like this. Yesterday, I spoke to Mackenzie. Mackenzie resides in Ohio, and Mackenzie's worried about college debt and finding long-term employment. We need to help Mackenzie. So let's break that down a little bit. So is there really a Mackenzie? Probably not. But Mackenzie is a popular name amongst younger individuals. Mackenzie's from Ohio, which is a swing state. Mackenzie is struggling with college debt, which most Americans are, and also wants to worry about employment during the pandemic. So it's relatable. You may not be Mackenzie, but you might know a Mackenzie. So we say these scenarios in storytelling to say like, oh, I know Mackenzie, that's me. And you're more willing to vote for that person.
Absolutely. I've seen that time and time again. Sunita, what do you think?
I think we need to have Dr. Barbera back on the show so we can keep picking his brain. Because I think as entrepreneurs, we're always thinking about how do we appeal to the audience? How do we appeal to customers? Even we talked about staff and we talked about leadership. So I think there's a lot we could learn. And I think the skill that Dr. Barbera has is very valuable from all the way around. So Michael, I love a lot of the things that you said. I love the idea of non-traditional benefits. I really get the value of that because it could be a win-win situation. I love how you think, rather than it really is. There's so many opportunities because the brain's default is survival, collapse, shrink. That is the default. It takes, and you may not even see that you're doing it, but it takes a thought, it takes a little shift to think expansion, growth, solve problems rather than focus on the problem. So I think you're a great example of that, and and we can all do it. And I'm going to admit, I am not perfect. Michael, there was times during this whole pandemic that I've thought I just need to make sure that I've got my box taken care of. And so it's so great to talk to someone that's interested in more than the box. And I admit that I'm in the box sometimes, but that's what I have to say.
So Michael, this is a time in our program where we ask our guest to give us some marching orders, and it could be anything. It could be on a personal level, on a business level, but just something that can help our audience kind of grasp onto and move forward. So if you could give us a little message like that, we'd appreciate it.
I can try. So when looking at your consumers and wondering why they're not buying from you, I want you to look at three things, the three B's: behavior, barriers, and benefits. What are the behaviors of your customers? What are the barriers preventing them from spending money with you or buying stuff from you? And then what are the benefits they get out of it? And then on top of that, ask yourself, who are your customers now and who do they want to be?
That's fantastic. That's great advice. Dr. Sunita, what words are you going to leave us with today?
I wanted to say, and I didn't get to ask, Michael talked a little bit about accountability and how he does it. But I do want, and we can probably do this another time. Michael, who else holds you accountable? I see you're accountable to yourself. Do you have any other source of accountability? Like in 3 seconds.
Absolutely. So my significant other holds me accountable. She calls me on my BS, on my malarkey. My team members at the lab and also at RakeMates. So if I make a public statement and say, hey, team member A, I'm going to do X, then they're going to hold me to it.
I think that's what I wanted to hear you say again, is saying it out loud. But what I just wanted to share is people like Dr. Barbera are out there, and it's so important. It's been so great for me to listen to Michael talking and his thought process so I can get outside of my head. So there's people out there, look for them. Look for someone that's emulating what you want, whether it's in your marriage or it's in business. Find that person and say, hey, can we talk once a month or every 3 weeks or whatever? And they'll do that. If someone wants to reach out to Dr. Barbera, I'm sure he's going to say, sure, let me get my calendar. Okay, well, that's all I wanted to say is reach out.
We'll give you one more thing to do. But that's a great segue into, thank you everyone for listening today. We were so glad that you were able to meet Dr. Michael Barbera. We'll put his information in the comments. So if you'd like to reach out to him or ask him about the services he provides, maybe you could be a client. So again, thank you. Make sure that you take action today. Do more, do something. And by all means, you need to get out and vote when the time is here. So we are only 75 days away from Election Day. So I hope everyone is registered to vote and you're getting ready to do your research and make sure you're making an informed decision, because it will be a very, very long ballot this year. So if you have any comments or questions, don't forget to send that in. Thank you so much on behalf of our staff and board of directors. The West San Antonio Chamber of Commerce thanks you for listening. Don't forget to like and share our episodes of Sustainable Brain. And Dr. Sunita, we will see you next week at 12:15.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't
Thank
forget,
you all.
still answering phones, whoever needs that help. Thank you.
Yes, if you need Dr. Sunita, she is there to help you. Please give her a call.